Hello, everybody. You know, I've been thinking, and I've seen some things and stuff today that just blew my mind. But I was thinking and asking God to really tell me what you want me to say. What do you want me to convey? What do you want me to let everyone know? Use me. Use me. And I wrote it all down. It just flew out of me, and I want to start by, there is only one whom can say, he who is without sin, cast the first stone. There is only one who has the right to cast the first stone, and he chose not to do it. And yet we have so little grace for a brother or a sister in Christ. Not because he or she has changed, but because his circumstances have changed. If you knew or know someone, you got a dear friend in your life, if you got a friend that's a friend, don't scold that person because they're struggling. You give them the same grace Jesus does. While they figure out what it means to keep their mouth closed, while they are walking around that mountain, if they slip up in that building, their faith, if they slip up in building of their faith, if they question or wonder or pondering of what is real or heard, whether or not, if it's really true, or if they struggle with it, would you just let them? I want everyone to go over to the other. Go over to the one that's wavering just a little bit, who's struggling and wavering as their current situations are not what he or she expected and are devastated in it. I want you to go and be a witness and share your testimony. And when you share your testimony, it'll answer every question you have or had been asked. There comes a time in our life when we must make a choice. We can be successful in our own life with all the money in the world. But would you step back? Would you really know something's missing? You may be the poorest man on the earth, yet still know there's something missing. People want to believe in the Lord, yet they can't. They can't see themselves being that righteous man or righteous woman living a life like that. They feel there's no way I can live up to that. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. It's too hard. So I'm just going to stay here because this is comfortable. And at least I know how to do this. I don't have to think about failing this person or that person. Some of us would think I'm too dirty, I've done too much or too many things, and I'm bad. I'm a bad seed. There's no way that I'm going to be accepted and be able to be saved and get that ticket to heaven. Or there's no way I could be the chosen one. There's no way. Look at my life. Look at my past. I don't know this. I don't know. I don't have this skill set. I can't have that. We end up painting this whole picture of defeat. And then this depression and sadness, which is exactly what spiritual warfare is. We think there is no way we can ever become, do, or be that. But when you think about the bigger picture, would you really want to live a life that's a lie? Would you really want to live in a life that's not true? Would you even want to live in a life where you got the ability to do big things and great things, that supernatural ability, When you know that you have that in you, would you not want to access that? Do you not want to access it? Do you not want to be free? To have that bondage taken off of you? That bondage of illness, death, and all this depression, and not feel like you can accomplish anything. And go over all our feeling. Do you want to be in the same place that you are right now? Do you really want to go back? Not that you know. Do you really want to stay here in bondage? There's a transformation that has to take place. There's a process that has to take place. To me, this is deliverance. This is being delivered from who you were and what you were and what you knew and what you were losing. What was real to you and was plugging you into what is real and what is true. But you having to go through a rebirth and a renewing. And then you have to go through a process of rehabilitation. This, to me, is one of the most crucial and important things we must do. This is the choice. This is the question today. If you knew there was something that was different out there, if you knew there was a will and a way, if you knew there was something that had things for you, that there was someone that has something better and things for you, power for you, life for you, promise for you, could you stay in this life? Well, there is. That is God. I know you've been in search for something. I know you are struggling. These last couple of months, years and years, struggling. Trying to figure out what's the missing piece troubling you. You see, through Christ, we are free. But a lot of us is in bondage. We don't even believe right now we are. But we are. It's a spiritual warfare. This is the answer. This is the truth. What I love about the truth is not only did he have someone come and die for us, he sent his only begotten Son to die for us. But I love through the resurrection we've been given a power unlike anything. Unlike anything. That power. There's a book that Bill Wiese wrote. It's a powerful book. And I read it. And I couldn't stop reading it. And, I don't want to put my faith on other people. And, everyone has their own beliefs. And I respect that. But I also know after I read this book that this pastor had wrote, he went to hell. And he came out and he testified about it. And that book is powerful. Powerful. And that book is a New York Times bestseller, over 1 million copies sold. And no, I'm not promoting. I'm just telling you about this book. It's one man's story about what he saw, heard, and felt in that place of torment. The name of the book is 23 Minutes in Hell. Bill Wiese, W-I-E-S-E, wrote this book. Get into a little bit of it. My sincere hope is that this book is the closest you will ever come to experiencing hell for yourself. Bill Wise saw the searing flames of hell, felt total isolation, and experienced the protrude and rotting stench, deafening screams of agony, terrorizing demons, and finally the strong hand of God lifting him out of the pit. And he said, "Tell them I am coming very, very soon." Wise's visit to the devil's lair lasted just 23 minutes, but he returned with vivid details etched in his memory. Since this life-changing ordeal, he has spent the last 7 years studying the scriptures to find answers and has listed more than 150 Bible verses referencing hell. Everyone is curious about the afterlife, and now Wise shares his insights to commonly asked questions such as, is hell a literal burning place? Where is hell? Do you have a body in hell? Are there degrees of punishment in hell? Are there children in hell? Can demons torment people in hell? Can good people go to hell? Even if you don't believe his story, he hopes you will believe the scriptures and avoid hell just the same. He's been a dedicated Christian and has served in various capacities, including teaching and leading worship since 1970. He has appeared on several television and radio shows and is an accomplished speaker. Bill is a successful realtor with over 30 years of experience. He lives with his wife, Annette, in Southern California. When I read this book, it made me even more want to not ever go there. I don't want any of my stripes taken. And I can get into more and more of all of this, and I tend to share a lot of this with everyone, because it's a book that, geez, it's an eye-opener. I mean, guys, hell is real, okay? I don't want to go there. I don't want no part of that. I want to share the pit, just a little bit. Momentary relief hit my soul as I realized I had been snatched from the grip of those hideous creatures. However, now I found myself next to an enormous pit with raging flames of fire, leaping high into an open cavern. As I looked up into that dark, eerie, tomb-like atmosphere, it seemed to be like a mouth that had swallowed her dead. The flames of her ravenous appetite were never satisfied with the pitiful screams of untold multitudes. The heat was far beyond unbearable, and I desperately wanted to escape before I too would be thrown into that inferno. As I looked back on this experience now, I am reminded of the devastation of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center on September the 11th, 2001, when some people, rather than facing the 2,000-degree heat, chose to plummet their death by leaping out a window. A fall, especially from such a great height, must have been horrendous. It was reported that a person subjected to that temperature would be completely incinerated in about 15 seconds. Those people chose to make that leap rather than face the intensity of those flames for even 15 seconds. Some scientists have reported that the core temperature at the center of the Earth is approximately 12,000 degrees. To endure that for an eternity is unfathomable. I could see the outlines of people through the flames. The screams from the condemned souls were deafening and relentless. There was no safe place, no safe moment, no temporary relief of any kind. In the media, we have heard of the merciless acts of terrorists. In some cases, their victims knew death would come by brutal decapitation. Try to imagine the terror these victims must have felt as they awaited their fate in hell. This state of fear never ceases for even 1 second. It lasts for eternity. There were people in hell who were contained in a massive pit. Horrible creatures surrounded the perimeter. There was no way of escape. Any attempt to do so was futile. Human strength was no match for the demons. I felt such anguish for these hopeless people, but at the same time I realized that I could be next. I remember as a child stepping into several fights to protect kids who were weaker and who were being bullied. I was beaten up several times, but I couldn't just stand there and not help. The television actors who enforced justice and guarded the weak were my role models. To look out for others is a godly characteristic, since we all come from God. It is in the most people to feel this way. We have seen how our country always comes to the rescue for the rest of the world. This inborn desire to protect the defenseless continued in my adult life. Now, without the ability to help even one defenseless, tormented soul, I felt the hopelessness of deepen. To witness people in terror and desperation and an unending torment was more than I could bear. Now try to picture the most fearful moment of your life. For me, I remember one morning when as a teenager I was surfing off the coast of Florida. A school of sharks showed up and surrounded us. We frantically began paddling toward the beach, and in the frenzy a guy nearby had his leg torn off. Then one shark knocked me completely off the board. My friend Renee and I were now literally swimming with the sharks. We desperately tried to get to the shore, but I sincerely felt that the blood in the water, combined with the number of sharks, was a certain death sentence. Suddenly, a 9-foot shark grabbed my leg in its mouth and pulled me down. For seemingly no reason, the shark let me go without a mark. Indeed, all other senses will be affected too. The ear with hideous noises, shrieks and yells from fellow damned sinners. The eye with fearful, ghastly, and horrible spectacles. The smell with suffocating odors and nasty stench, worse than that of carrion or that which comes out of an open sepulchre. Thomas Vincent. Thank God, and Renee and I swam to shore. At the time, I was an avid surfer. Needless to say, I didn't go near the water for almost 2 years. That was one of the most terrifying moments in my life. And that experience paled in comparison to the fear you endure for an eternity in hell. There is no way of escape. No one can rescue you. When I had first arrived in the cell, I had noticed that I was naked, which in another form of shame and increased vulnerability. In such a hostile environment, the vulnerability adds another layer of helplessness and fear to an already terrifying mind. In life, well-adjusted, healthy people would feel shame if stripped and exposed publicly. How much more so would such shame and fear be felt in a terror-filled environment? I'm reminded of the millions of Jews who were stripped naked and humiliated before being murdered with poisonous gas or cast into ovens during World War II. They experienced many tortures and humilities, but being naked was an attempt to strip them of their dignity and to intensify the fear. Many have died horrific deaths on earth. How much more the torment when it lasts forever? I also experienced the misery of total exhaustion in hell. The continual emotional, mental, and physical trauma feeds this vicious cycle of sleep deprivation. You desperately long for even a few minutes of rest, but you never ever get that privilege. Imagine for a moment how terrible you feel after 148 hours of no sleep. In hell, you never sleep, rest, or find a quiet moment. Any form of rest is completely non-existent. Even though I was only there for 23 minutes, the torment and trauma was so intense that it felt like I hadn't slept for weeks. It could only worsen with time. There is never any peace of mind, no rest from the torments, the screams, the fear, the thirst, the lack of breath, no sleep. The stench, the heat, the hopelessness, then the isolation from people. I desperately wanted to talk to a human being, but I knew I would never get that chance. You are kept from any kind of fellowship, conversation, or human interaction. Relationships are so valuable, and it's easy to take them for granted. At the moment of death, a person does not want to be surrounded with things. That person wants to be surrounded by people who truly care for him and love him. It is extremely difficult to process the thought of knowing you will never be able to relate with anyone ever again, especially with those you love. The innate human desire to communicate, ask questions, and relate with someone who shares in their suffering will never be fulfilled in hell. Instead, all you are exposed to are hideous creatures. No matter who you were, whether famous or of great influence or a nobody, it doesn't matter. You are truly alone amidst a sea of tormented souls. Now, it is true that there are areas in this vast, fiery pit where people are thrown together, but they are only together in the sense that they are all experiencing the same torment. Each person is very isolated in extreme agony and screaming in fear as fire and brimstone rain dawn upon him. They are together in the same way cattle are herded into a slaughterhouse. A soul in such extreme agony would have no opportunity for a conversation. Besides, I believe everyone there is just on the verge of insanity. However, I believe you never quite go insane, for that would provide a form of escape, and there is no escape even mentally. I possess knowledge that there were different levels of torment or varying degrees of punishment. I knew some people were in worse positions than others. All areas were horrid, with no place of relief or comfort. I was also aware that there were many levels far, far worse. Any level, area, or degree of torment was much worse than any concept a mind could conceive. And there's some chapter notes. But whoever listens to me will dwell safely and will be secure without fear of evil. Upon the wicked he will rain coals, fire, and brimstone, and a burning wind shall be the portion of their cup, and were destroyed by the destroyer. And 1 Corinthians 10:10, let burning coals fall upon them. Let them be cast into the fire, into deep pits, that they rise not up again. Hell is naked before him, and destruction has no covering. Job 26:6, this verse indicates that God can look upon hell. It's not hidden from him. However, hell's inhabitants are also physically naked. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. Revelation 16:15. Again, the primary meaning in this verse is that without being ready and covered with the garment of salvation, we would be in shame when the Lord returns. I counsel you to buy from me white garments, that you may be clothed, that the shame of your nakedness may not be revealed. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night. Revelations 14:11. That scripture means there will be no relief from the torments and no rest, no sleep. There is no peace, says my God, for the wicked. Isaiah 57:21. Destruction comes, they will seek peace, but there shall be none. It will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, inferring a less tolerable situation in hell. Matthew 10:15. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees! You will receive greater condemnation. Matthew 23:14. You make him twice as much a son of hell as yourselves. Matthew 23:15. Anyone who has rejected Moses' law dies without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Of how much worse punishment do you suppose will he be thought worthy who has trampled the Son of God underfoot? And Hebrew 10:28 through 29, from the lowest pit, Lamb 3:55, thou hast delivered my soul from the lowest hell. In Psalms, you have laid me in the lowest pit, in darkness, in the depths. Also in Luke, the scriptures, these heroic personages speak from the midst of Sheol, which may suggest that they are located in the heart of the netherworld, perhaps a more honorable assignment than remotest recess of the pit. Guys, there's a hell. And I really recommend everyone to get this book. And I want you to ask yourself, next time you come across any evil, ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Really. And remember, when Jesus was being tortured and beaten, and his wounds were weeping, all that blood, and everyone tried to come to him and wipe him and were yelled at, and he was slandered and abused and lied about and suffered tremendously, as his mother, Mary, had to sit and watch helpless, couldn't do anything because of all of the slanderous lies and accusations, and she was having to just sit and watch her son be tortured. That she couldn't do anything. She was on her knees watching, and she stayed with him. I recommend everyone go and watch The Passion of Christ. That movie, every time I watch it, I bawl my eyes out. So everyone, be kind. You don't have to be perfect to accept God. We all make mistakes. We're not perfect, we're human. But I hope everyone understands that there is a hell. I don't want any of my stripes taken from me. And all the evil ones out there, understand that God's handling them, and when he handles them, he handles them. Just keep praying for them. Pray for them. God bless all of you, and God bless your families.